And giving his take as he's being pressured to respond to Turkey's offensive in Syria, as some call his withdrawal of troops there sudden and brutal abandonment. He tweeted this last night: the same people that got us into the Middle East quicksand, $8 trillion and many thousands of lives and millions of lives when you count the other side, are now fighting to keep us there. Don't listen to people that haven't got a clue. They have proven to be inept. Well, Greg, what do you think about this?
Hey, Denise, enough about the news. Now let's talk about it. What's Your Point starts right now.
The battle to be Houston's next mayor intensifies, with the incumbent now punching back hard. Who will voters believe as the character of top candidates comes under attack? In the race for controller, the curtain comes off a secret land deal which put millions of taxpayer dollars in Chris Brown's pocket. With council and the mayor left in the dark, who was watching the city's financial watchdog? And a major county tax hike derailed by strategic retreat. Was the elopement of Republican commissioners political courage or cowardice?
I'm Greg Rugen, and welcome to What's Your Point, where our panelists call it like they see it. Let's greet them. Starting us off, legendary reporter turned investigative media consultant Wayne Dolcefino. Next up, legal analyst and well-known Houston attorney Carmen Rowe. In the three spot, Charles Blaine, leader of the advocacy group Urban Reform. Batting cleanup, longtime Fox 26 legal and political analyst Chris Tritico. Next up, conservative attorney and Second Amendment expert Michelle Maples. And closing us out on the hot corner, writer, educator, and radio host Antonio Diaz. Let's begin. 23 days until Houstonians make their call on who will run this city. The choice at hand: keep the current leadership of Sylvester Turner or move in a much different direction. With plenty of voters still undecided, we can fully expect in these final 23 days a heavy portion of full contact politics.
March 31st, 2016, Tony Buzbee arrested for drunk driving. The district attorney personally dismisses the case, and Busbee's record is expunged almost immediately. The DA? She received $10,000 in campaign contributions from Buzbee in 2014, and another $18,000 from his lawyers while the case was pending. Tony Buzbee is one of Donald Trump's biggest donors, and just like Trump, he's trying to buy his way into power. Follow the money, and don't let Tony Buzbee buy City Hall.
That shot fired by incumbent Sylvester Turner was fully expected and comes in response to Tony Buzbee's own scorched earth campaign targeting alleged pay-to-play patronage by the mayor, benefiting many of his biggest campaign donors. On a second front, the mayor was doing his best to distance himself from that controversial $95,000 a year internship created and filled without competition, while most city departments were under a hiring freeze.
With regards to the position, not created by me, created by the airport, and in collaboration with the Chief Development Officer, the pay, not determined. I had nothing to do with the pay.
Mayor Turner says his relationship with intern Marvin Agumagu was the same as with other city employees. Okay, gang, let's talk about this mayor's race. Wayne Dolcefino, what do you think of Mayor Turner's shot at Buzbee?
All right, well, I want to talk about that. I also like to talk about Agumagu at some point. So the shot at Buzbee, look, first of all, it is illegal for an officer like Mayor Turner to expose someone whose case was expunged. That's just whining, right? It's a fair shot. Okay, Tony Buzbee goes out and parties and he made a mistake, whatever, okay? I don't think that really resonates with Buzbee voters. And I'm not sure the pay-to-play stuff resonates with the mayor's voters. I will tell you that one thing I've always enjoyed about Mayor Turner, he could look in the camera with a straight face and bald face tell you something that we all know is not true.
Okay, What do you want to say about Agamagu?
Well, it's Agamagu. Look, I get it. There's 100 pictures of those guys. They're buddies, right? He claimed he didn't know them, whatever. Claimed he had nothing to do with the job. Give me a break. Look, I have a company. People send me resumes that are impressive all the time. I don't say to my number 2, Kelsey, hey, Kelsey, create a job, make it $95,000 a year for this person because their resume was so good, I have to have them. That is nonsense, and that is something that every single person knows. When they see the pictures of them, when they remember the mayor said he didn't know who he was, he had days to correct it before the Channel 2 story and didn't correct it, give me a break.
Okay, surprise, surprise. The Chronicle editorial board said this is not a big deal. Chris Tritico, but you bought their argument, right?
Well, you know, the way the Chronicle wrote it, it seemed to make sense. But let's talk about Busbee first. I want to talk about that. You know, Wayne says it's illegal to expose an expunged case. That case is everywhere. The mayor's not talking about something that wasn't already out in the media, and the expungement was already out in the media. So he's not talking about anything that's a big secret. The fact that Tony Busbee got a DWI is not a big deal. The fact that of the dismissal and the way it happened, that's the big deal.
That's fair.
And that is what the mayor is pointing out, and the way it occurred. There, by the grace of God, goes anybody who drinks getting a DWI in Harris County. But the way that occurred and the way that then DA dismissed it is what the mayor is talking about. And this thing with I can't even say his name,
Marvin.
Yeah, Marvin. All of that and the way the Chronicle wrote it up made sense to me.
Oh.
And I think that people ought to stop and look at this. Now, Wayne is talking about, you know, the mayor said create a $95,000 job. There's no evidence that the mayor called out and said give this guy $95,000. I haven't seen anything of that sort. So I think we have to stop and say, let's see what the true evidence is before we say, Mayor, you're lying.
Michelle Maples, your take.
Well, there's an email chain. There's an email from Agamagu, don't ask me to spell it, but that's how you say it, Chris. Agamagu saying, here is my resume. Mayor Turner requested that I send you my resume, and then poof, there is a $95,000 internship. That never happened to me, I'll tell you that right now. And then with regards to the whole Busbee thing, Chris, I agree with you. It is sort of fishy that the elected DA was the one who personally dismissed this case. Now, I'm not in the criminal courthouse every day. I doubt that happens very often, if ever does that happen. However, with that said, I don't think Busbee supporters care. There are lots of people with DWIs. There's lots of people who make mistakes. But this is fun. This home stretch is going to get a little dirty.
Okay, Carmen, need your take on this.
If you don't like what they're talking about, you change the conversation. That's something that Sylvester Turner and his camp have consistently employed as a strategy, and that's what we're doing when we talk about DWIs from 2016. This was a big deal. I agree with Chris, but it was 3 years ago. We're talking about something that may or may not affect who he is today regarding his drinking or regarding anything else that had to do with that case. Everything that we're talking about with Sylvester is continuous, it's ongoing, it's today. It's yesterday, and it's in the future, and it's something that he doesn't respond to directly, specifically regarding the mountain of evidence that I think it was Channel 2 put together that was unbelievably shocking in the amount that was there and how much it revealed about his relationship with Agamagu, as well as his role in this job.
Charles Blaine, take a minute, because I want to save time for Tony. You follow this closely.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with Carmen. So we're looking at something that was 3-4 years ago, contributions that may have been made, some of the contributions made before the DUI. So what you're going to blame those previous contributions, or you know, not blame, but say that those previous contributions were, you know, given with the intent of him getting out of some sort of future trouble. I mean, it's just a weird argument. And really, I think the bottom line of that attack ad is he's trying to shame him for a DUI, which a lot of people have gone through. And it's a really, I mean, 23 days out, we're really at that gutter form of politics now where he's trying to use that. Now, to the Agamagu thing, I also agree with Carmen, because we see this repetitiveness with Turner when it comes to this corruption or appearance of corruption, and we continue to see these same people who have been in his past, who have been involved in shady deals, who are there today, and the same behavior that was in the past today. So that's what we need to be talking about. He's the incumbent mayor. He has yet to answer for a lot of things that he's been accused of, but yet he's trying to shift the conversation to talk about something that happened 3-4 years ago.
Okay, I got to point out, though, you know, the mayor takes a lot of heat for his big contributors getting contracts and money greasing the way. I mean, there's an argument to be made that Tony Buzbee greased the way for a good outcome of his DWI. Okay, Tony, take it away.
Well, I mean, I think people were waiting for the mayor to punch back, and we've got a political street fight on our hands. But I think that actually favors the incumbent mayor because he's been scrapping. I got a feeling that the day he set foot on Harvard Square, you know, Kid from Maker's Homes, and a place that he's doesn't feel welcome or familiar with. He's been scrapping at the legislature. I think it also turns off voters because it looks like politics as usual, and I think a low turnout favors the incumbent. What I would like to see would people shift gears. I want to know exactly what they're going to do about flooding, which they've done low key. I want to know what they're going to do for Latinos. I don't feel any of the candidates have appealed directly to Latinos. All of their social media games are terrible. None of them have any social media games. So not going to new voters or young voters, that's the election I want to see.
Okay, we're going to follow it. When we come back, a war of words underway as the governor claws back control of billions in federal flood relief earmarked for Houston. Is the oversight justified or just partisan politics? Stay with us. Welcome back. Complicating Mayor Sylvester Turner's bid for re-election was the breakout of a verbal gun battle with none other than Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Last week, as we reported, the governor clawed back control of $4 billion federal dollars for Harvey relief, citing the lack of progress rebuilding flood-damaged homes. Turner called Abbott's move a politically motivated, quote, money grab, sparking the governor's team to threaten a complete audit of the city's Harvey relief efforts to date. Mayoral challenger Bill King jumped in, claiming, quote, Turner is incapable of managing this process. One can't help but wonder if Turner's gift of more than $6 million of Houston Harvey funds to his former law partner was the straw that broke the camel's back with the state. I'm turning to Charles Blaine. What's your take on this?
Yeah, so it's funny he calls it a money grab as if it's his money that the governor is grabbing. I mean, it's our money, and we've seen 10 people who have been helped from the flood recovery dollars, whereas the GLO has helped, I think, rebuild 1,400 homes, 1,600 apartments. Clearly, they're doing something right. So I'm begging the governor to come in and audit. I'm begging him to do better work with this recovery money, but there is still a need for transparency and accountability on the state level. So I'd like to see some more transparency there in terms of where the money's going to go once he takes it and starts allocating it, to make sure that these Houston dollars continue to go to Houston rather than regional projects or elsewhere. So I think we need accountability on the state level, but I'm glad to see this.
Chris, about 30 seconds.
This is a political play by the governor to manage the mayoral race. There's no question about that, but it's not a money grab. It's just that I think this is where the mayor truly has dropped the ball. It's been how long? But the governor waits until right before the mayoral election to come in. Pure politics.
How do you see it, Wayne Dolcefino?
Well, look, I'm proud to live in a city where HISD is so screwed up, the government's going to have to take over from the state, and our city has misused Harvey funds so badly that the governor may have to come in and take over. Hello, folks, wake up. Look, I'm one of the few people that actually have looked at the invoices from this Hurricane Harvey home repair nonsense. First of all, they spent a bucket load of money trying to solicit hurricane victims as if we didn't know where they were. Right? They were charging $100 an hour to make a phone call to set up appointments, right? We got the mayor's former law partner on this thing, and the mayor goes, well, look, I didn't pick him. Look, are we stupid? Are we naive? Do we think this company said, gee, the best guy to do title searches is the former law partner of the mayor because there are 1,000 other minority lawyers that can do it? Give me a break.
Okay, Tony. A lot of the people you advocate for are the folks on the outside looking in right now, 2 years after Harvey, and they're no better off. I mean, what's your take on this?
Well, if folks had their houses wrecked by Harvey and their houses have still not been fixed, they don't care if you're Democrat or Republican.
That's right.
They're blaming all of them.
That's right.
Up and down the list. So if I was, and let's politicize it a little bit. If I was the Democrats with city and county, I'd get a task force. I'd have everybody's name who's been damaged. I'd tell them, here's who you are on the list, here's what the problem is, and here's where we think the money's coming. For the Republican side as well, too, they should also say, hey, I'd like to see George Prescott Bush roll up his sleeves and come down to the barrio and hammer some nails and say, hey, the money's not here yet, our hearts are here, let's help you. Because otherwise, I'm shocked that people are quiet about this. This should be the biggest issue. This should be enraged. And again, the money is money. The water, the flood is the flood. The people who are affected don't care about your political party. They care that they're still suffering and no one's fixed.
That's right.
Okay, is it just a systemic situation, Michelle Maples? I mean, look, we're 2 years later and this money is not getting in any citizen pockets.
I'm going to shock everybody. I don't trust the government with taxpayer dollars. I know that's wild, okay? I really don't trust Turner with my taxpayer dollars. And then on top of that, even with a Republican-run state, I still want to see transparency. I absolutely agree there should be an audit with, 10 homes have been rebuilt in the past 2 years? Ridiculous. And then you've got the land office who's able to take care of over 1,000. There's something wrong here, and there absolutely needs to be an audit of Turner's administration, and there needs to be a lot of transparency on the state level as well.
Okay, the mayor's giving himself a pass on this. You give him a pass, Carmen? I doubt it.
Absolutely not. I don't think this is just rhetoric. I mean, we've heard it from all the mayoral candidates coming in. Where's the money? What's going on? And now we have Governor Abbott saying the same thing. And he's not just saying it, which is how you know it's not just politics. He has flatly accused Sylvester of misrepresenting facts regarding the request for funding, and he's said he's going to open an audit. That's more than just talk. And so everybody's probably going to learn a lot more of important information that we need to know about where that money went. What we do know is just exactly what Charles said earlier, which is we have 10 homes that have been built compared to counties outside of Houston, smaller counties where they have hundreds of thousands of homes built in the same time frame.
Charles, you think an audit would find malfeasance?
I mean, I think so. Starting with that $6 million going to his former law partner. I think we need to really open this up, crack it open, and see what's going on there. There are people who show up at City Hall on a weekly basis saying that they've submitted applications to the city for funds to rebuild, and they've just been either ignored or denied. Something is wrong, and so the only way to figure that out is by opening this up. And I think we would find some stuff in there.
Okay, do you think that we'd have the same situation if we had a Republican mayor? I mean, and I'll just say it this way, is the system just so full of red tape that regardless of how good you're at it, you can't get money to the people in 2 years?
I think the FEMA red tape is a problem. But where was the governor a year ago? This has been going on for 2 years. And that's the problem I have with the politics of this thing. They waited till they could manage the mayor's race. He should have come in a year ago and said, you're not doing if he's that mad, you're not doing your job, I'm coming in now. He should have come in a year ago. This is a problem for the entire city, and everyone who's been affected by this has been screaming for 2 years. So they should have come in a year ago. This should be the single biggest issue in this mayor's race, and we're talking about interns and other things and not talking about the people who've been damaged by this flood.
What do you say, Wayne?
So look, I mean, I don't think it's red tape. Look, I think government, I'm going to shock too, government is inherently corrupt. Because everybody worries about their buddies and their cousins and their girlfriends and giving contracts to people that are unnecessary to inflate the cost of government. And it doesn't matter whether they're Tony's right about that. Folks don't care whether they're Democrats or Republicans. They want their homes fixed. My point was that we knew where all the homes were damaged, right? We had hundreds of people that came to us. We have to spend millions of dollars paying firms to outreach to people like somehow you can't find hurricane victims. Look, there is so much unnecessary spending. We have a water plant, for instance. I don't want to change the subject. We have a water plant on the Northeast side. You never hear about it. It's $1.7 billion now, and it's the who's who of the mayor's buddies. We need to wake up that all across this town, we are inflating contracts. We have an inspector general that is I don't even know if the guy's alive, right? We have a legal department I wouldn't trust, right, to do my will. I mean, we got to stop this nonsense.
Okay, we're going to leave it right there. Still to come, a resounding rejection of Houston's fire chief by rank-and-file first responders. Are firefighter grievances legit, or is it just bare-knuckle politics? Our panel dives in after the break. As if what we've talked about so far wasn't enough, there was even more vitriol this week surrounding city leadership. Fire Chief Sam Pena was the target of a no-confidence vote by the Houston Professional Firefighters Union. Pena lost badly, with more than 3,000 of the roughly 4,000 members expressing their displeasure. Among the key grievances, Pena's opposition to pay parity with police, Pena's push for reduction in shifts, and the continuing decline of the firefighting fleet. Pena responded that he'd accomplished more in 2 years than his predecessors had in 20. Now, our Jonathan Martin had an exclusive interview with the chief just last week.
So why is it that so many of your firefighters, if you've done all of those things, they don't have confidence in you?
Well, look, it's always challenging when your team doesn't have all the facts, and so on that I take ownership. You know, it's obvious that I haven't communicated enough.
Of course, many see this no confidence vote as an indirect attack on the mayor, who again voiced his support of the chief. Tony, you like Sam Pena. I like Sam Pena, but is he doing a good job?
Well, he's beloved in the Latino community because even before the election, he was out there among the folks. But let's get something straight. I'm pro-union. I'm a member of the AFT, so union can do what unions do, which is fine. However, what we can do too is support Chief Pena, because I've heard his counter rebuttal. I believe it. I'm also a proud member of LULAC Council 60. Our president, Al Castillo, watches. Shout out to him. But I'm hoping Chief Pena comes to our council, gives his side of the story, because I would love for LULAC Council 60 to give a vote of maximum confidence for Chief Pena.
Carmen Rowe, your take.
I'm with Tony Buzbee. I don't think he can lead the firefighters if this vote of confidence comes in with these numbers. I mean, the majority of firefighters are not following him, and make no mistake why that is. You can talk about the numbers and what he's doing as far as financially, but he doesn't support pay parity. He doesn't support this idea that the majority of citizens do, that firefighters deserve to be paid the same wage as law enforcement officers. People who go out and risk their lives for the community members here should not be qualified in this way, certainly not by the chief.
Okay, got to leave it there. Up next, the firefighter's choice to lead this city is Councilman Dwight Boykins. And on this morning, he's in our hot seat trying to convince the rest of you. So stay with us. What's your point? We'll be right back. Welcome back. He's among the top contenders looking to dislodge Mayor Sylvester Turner from City Hall. Well regarded in District D and supported by 3,000 plus firefighters, Dwight Boykins is back in the hot seat to make his case for change come November 5th. Councilman, welcome back.
Welcome, and let's go Astros.
All right. Let's start with that no confidence vote by the firefighters. Given your history of battling the administration over pay parity and the threat of firefighter layoffs, I'm guessing you agree with the union on this.
You know, it's interesting. When Chief Pena first came to Houston, I think even though the rank and file wanted a chief from within the ranks, they accepted him, but had no idea he was going to carry the bag of the mayor to dismantle, privatize EMS, go to 3 shifts, and just, you know, completely take all the steam out of them. And it was that direction of this mayor. And then when the voters passed Proposition B, Greg, to allow the firefighters to get equal pay with equal fire, the very next day, the mayor sued to overturn the will of the voters. And so the chief have stood up with the mayor, and that's where I think that's coming from.
Okay. This week, the state of Texas clawed back control of $4 billion worth of Harvey funds, with the governor citing dismal progress 2 years after the storm. Was that move justified? And I have a follow-up question. Was it justified?
Well, I can't say whether it was justified or not, but I know on this campaign trail, the mayor has pointed the finger at everybody, not his housing director, not his administration. He said the GLO process is slow. And I keep reminding him there are other ways as a leader of the 4th largest city in the country to make good on what these people are looking for in terms of recovery. So he kept pointing the finger, and the governor's probably saying, look, I'm going to show you the cards. We've done it with ours. What have you done with yours? Only 10 houses? And that's a concern.
Okay, on the campaign trail, and it's been, I thought, a pretty good suggestion. You said the city should have gone to private lenders, gotten some bridge financing to shove some money, get it out there with the relief effort a lot sooner. You want to talk about that?
As a former banker, I spoke with some bank presidents, and I asked them that question. When this took place, if we would have come to you once the federal government allocated money to Texas and we received our allocation of $2.2 billion, would you have taken a loan? Couldn't we have taken a loan against those revenues? And the bankers I talked to said, you know what, with some CRA issues, taking that out, yes, we would have done that. So as a leader, that's our job to make certain that we take some of the out-of-the-box thinking out of this, and the mayor is good at pointing the finger, where was GLO, where was this person? No, you the mayor. The buck stops with you. And a lot of the processes and issues with mishandling of money, audits, may not have become an issue.
Council member, this week the mayor tried to distance himself from responsibility for that controversial $95,000 a year internship and it was awarded while most of the city was under a hiring freeze. Are you still hearing from workers who are angry because they make a whole lot less?
You know, it's interesting. I've been there 6 years and not one intern has received a paycheck from me. Let me start with that. It's valuable experience, and it's unfortunate when parents send their kids to gain experience, this kind of scandal comes behind it. It wouldn't happen with my administration. But I think this whole process has been unfair to this young man. The mayor needs to take responsibility. He, like any other kid, would have taken this opportunity. But for the mayor to claim he didn't know the guy and still would have said that if he wouldn't have gotten caught, I think is unfair to that young man.
Councilmember, at the Millennials Forum, both Mayor Turner and challenger Tony Buzbee said they favored legalizing marijuana in Houston. You disagreed. Why?
Well, for those who choose, first of all, it's against the law here in Texas. Second, my brother, who's incarcerated, started with marijuana and then he moved to crack cocaine, and he's in treatment now while he's in incarceration. I just don't see the need until it's legalized here on the federal level in Texas, in the state, and I don't indulge in drugs. You know, I just don't see the need of that. I'm not going to say what people want to hear just to get a vote.
Okay. I have been with you, seen you march against gun violence in Sunnyside, which had, at the time, one of the highest homicide rates in the country. The mayor says he should get a passing grade on the crime issue. What do you think, and what would you do?
I don't know what kind of passing grade he's referring to, because if you go talk to the family members who've lost loved ones, I mean, it happens almost every week, and you go to talk to police officers and firefighters who face the barrel of a gun when they go and do their job, and to run around and say you deserve a passing grade, my response would always be, as the mayor of this city, we can always do better with violent crime and gun control in our city. I would never take credit to say, because of my leadership, crime is down, because you open yourself up for concerns and questions.
You have talked about allowing officers to take their patrol units. You want to talk briefly about that?
Real quick, a 30-30 plan as mayor. Police officers that live inside the city of Houston will be able to take the patrol cars home and patrol 30 minutes before they go to work, 30 minutes when they return, but park their car in the driveway. It would have a direct impact on crime reduction in your neighborhood.
With 23 days left until this election, give our viewers one major reason why you should be the pick to lead this city.
If you want someone with experience, and I'm not into the dirty and negative politics, experience, leadership, integrity, will do the will of the voters, implement Proposition B, pay parity effective immediately, make certain city employees receive their 9% pay raise and not the 6% that the mayor gave them, and do what's right without raising your property taxes. I'm your man.
Okay. Dwight Boykins.
Thank you, Greg.
Always great to have you here.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Still ahead, in the face of a major tax hike, Republican county commissioners vote with their feet, killing the measure. Did Steve Raddick and Jack Cagle do the right thing or desert their duty? That question on the table after the break. Victory by strategic retreat. Facing a deadline vote on a democratically proposed increase in the Harris County tax rate, Republican Commissioners Steve Raddick and Jack Cagle opted to elope, denying Judge Lina Hidalgo the quorum necessary to push through the $250 million per year additional levy on home and business owners.
We knew that this was a chance at a political stunt for them, and we haven't found any workaround right now. So really, it puts the county in a very dangerous position.
I think that this is an unfair and unjust and an unjustified tax at this time, and so I've decided to utilize Texas law and not be there and vote with my feet.
With the state-mandated deadline now passed, the Democratic majority will have to wait another year to try again. Democrats argued this first rate hike in 2 decades was necessary to create a rainy day fund and finance fixes for what they called years of underservice and neglect. The measure was billed as an 8% increase, but when coupled with rising valuations, experts say the actual hike would have been closer to 12%. Okay, Michelle Maples, what do you make of this?
Greg, did you get an 8% increase in your salary? Anybody in the room? 8 to 12% increase in their salary? No.
Carmen did.
Carmen may have. Well, she probably deserves it. Look, I am in Cagle's precinct, and I could not be happier with his decision to no-show. He will, if he decides to run again, he will absolutely get my vote because of this specific issue. Look, Judge Lina Hidalgo, you blew through your budget. You have so much money, you've got to make it work. That's how the rest of us live our lives. We've got our budget and we make it work within the budget. We don't get to go to the taxpayers to take more of their money. We're not getting 12% raises. You got to make it work, and I couldn't be prouder of Radek and Cagle.
Chris Tritico, I know you remember back, I think it was 2003, when Democrats left, they did the elopement deal. What's your read on this?
Well, so yeah, it was the Republicans who just chastised the Democrats for leaving the state, so the Republicans couldn't vote on redistricting, and just chastised them all over the place. And now the Republicans are doing the same thing. But let's harken back when the county commissioners said they were going to do this. I said this is an unforced error. They shouldn't. The Democrats just took control of the county. They're going to raise taxes 8%. I think it was a mistake to do it, and so I'm not really going to jump all over this, because I don't think that the Democrats should be raising taxes this quickly. But I do agree that we need a rainy day fund, and we need to start paying attention to infrastructure issues quickly.
Final word, Charles Blaine, 20 seconds.
So I disagree with Judge Hidalgo for calling this a political stunt. What is a stunt is her constant mischaracterization of state law and of this new property tax legislation. It doesn't tie their hands. It doesn't limit what they can bring in. They just have to ask voters for more, because government doesn't have money. It's our money. And so I also want to say 49% of Harris County renters are cost burdened, meaning they spend more than 30% of their income on rent. So Cagle and Radek saved them. They saved flood victims. They saved people who can't afford it. The people who need it the most, they stood up for them when it mattered the most.
Okay, we'll talk more about it later. When we come back, no one has battled longer or harder to control the rise of property taxes in Houston, Texas. State Senator Paul Bettencourt returns to our hot seat with what's certain to be a vigorous defense of the Harris County walkout. Stay with us. Welcome back. Long before he became an influential state senator, Paul Bettencourt was known in our community as the tax man. Earlier this year, he authored and passed legislation limiting local taxing entities to a 3.5% annual rate increase without going to voters for approval. The new law triggered a rush by some Texas counties and cities to crank up taxation before the measure takes effect January 1st. The effort, which failed here in Harris County, is the latest example. Senator, welcome back to the hot seat.
Thanks for having me.
Okay.
Great win for taxpayers.
This was billed as an 8% increase, but you say it was really a lot more.
No, because that's just the appraised value increase. And then you add on the tax rate increase that Judge Hidalgo, Commissioners Garcia and Ellis put together. It was going to be much closer to 12%. And that's what the homeowner was going to pay. And that's why people went up in arms on it immediately. This was a really bad increase at the wrong time. And it's going to shadow Judge Hidalgo and the commissioners in going into the future.
Okay, Judge Hidalgo and Democrats on the court say by turning aside the rate increase, the Republican commissioners have crippled the county's ability to contend with growth and create a much-needed rainy day fund. What's your response to that?
That's just complete hogwash. Okay, sorry. They don't have any understanding of the law. The law makes it clear. If you want more money, you go to the public in November to get it. This was a rush to go do a maximum smash on taxpayers before the law took place. Now they're going to have to face the voters. And when they do, the voters will want to know, what's the plan? What are you using the money for? Instead of just coming to say, I'm going to get a double-digit tax increase and not explain it. That's exactly why the law was passed, because everybody around the state is sick of rising property taxes. Bottom line in Harris County is you've got a cut in the by Harris County, a cut from the city because of a voter-approved charter amendment, and the state cuts your ISD taxes. So for once, there's going to be some treats in the tax bill instead of a lump of coal.
What do you make of local governments, trying to crank up their rates ahead of the deadline?
It's a preposterous public policy position. It's, quite frankly, progressive leftist socialism. That's what we saw on County Commissioners Court. Radek and Cagle should be commended. They follow the law, and the law has been clear since 1983 that you need 4 commissioners to vote on a tax rate. The Democrat majority should have understood that, and they thought that the Republican commissioner was going to blink. They didn't, and now the Republican commissioners are heroes, not just to their base, but to independents, to Democrats, to everybody paying those tax bills, because no one gets a 12% increase a year, except Harris County government tried, and now they failed.
You're aware of Harris County's fiscal condition. Are they in as bad a condition as was suggested to us given normal rates of growth?
I was astonished about how disingenuous Harris County was in this process, saying it's only going to cost taxpayers $37. On their public notice, they have $1.3 billion on unencumbered funds. That's not even counting the billions in the toll road fund. They've had 58% more revenue coming into this year in the last 6 years. If there's mismanagement happening, it's because people are overspending, and they've really gotten a lesson that the public's not ready to do it. And two commissioners stood tall, Cagle and Raddick, to stop it.
Okay. Democrats labeled Cagle and Raddick's elopement as a temper tantrum and abdication of their responsibility. But my question is this: what would have happened if they'd ran a campaign to try to get voter approval for 8%?
Well, it wouldn't have been 8% because they had to tell the public it was closer to 12%. And then what was the reasoning? Well, we need the extra money. Well, what for? See, that's why SB 2 was designed the way it was. It was designed to return local control to the voters on overtaxation. And what would happen next year in 2020 is that they try this stunt again, and it was a political stunt, Judge Hidalgo. It just wasn't, the Republicans doing it. They have to get rid of the politics and take a rational case to the public and say, here's what we need the money for. We're talking $200+ million. It's not chump change. So what's the plan? And the fact is that that they didn't do it right, and they didn't even follow the law that was on the books. They didn't understand it. The Republican commissioners did, and as a result, you can thank them for saving the taxpayers $195 million.
Senator Bettencourt, thanks for taking the hot seat. It's always good to have you.
Be back next year when they take it to the voters. Let's hope they do.
And we'll have you back. When we come back, a super secret multi-million-dollar land deal has some asking, who is watching the city's financial watchdog? How Comptroller Chris Brown bagged a big payday involving public dollars. Our panel tackles the topic when we come back. Welcome back. We return to city politics and a disturbing development involving Houston's financial watchdog. Turns out Comptroller Chris Brown very quietly sold land to a developer who used a taxpayer-funded loan from the city of Houston to help pay the $5.6 million purchase price. The land at 2800 Commerce is being used for a low-income elderly housing project. Trouble is, Comptroller Brown never disclosed his involvement in the transaction to anyone on city council, which ultimately approved the deal.
It cries out misdeed. It cries out this was not above board. And I think the administration should have caught it, and certainly Chris Brown should have told us about this. And to slip this by is just unconscionable, in my opinion.
In a statement, Comptroller Brown said he got clearance from the city legal department to participate in the deal. But Thursday, a spokesman for Sylvester Turner said the mayor was not aware of the comptroller's involvement in the transaction. So, panel, does it appear the city's financial watchdog needs some watching? Charles Blaine.
Yeah, I think so. To take a phrase from New Jersey, I think this is soft corruption. It's unethical. It's unethical, but it might not be illegal. But he definitely should have alerted council. I mean, he talks to them on a regular basis. He's involved in city council proceedings. He should have let them know that he had a stake in this in this sale. And to have them vote on that without having any idea about that, I mean, it doesn't sit right with me. And there's definitely more to look into here.
Chris, you read some on this.
He sent us what he claims was the legal department's review of this, but he didn't send us the signed portion of it. We don't know who wrote it. We don't know who signed off on it. I've got a problem with that, and I'm not sure that the legal department actually did it.
Quickly, Carmen Rowe.
I think he's playing fast and loose with the facts, and so is what I reviewed as well. There's not a lot of meat there. There's a lot more to this story, and I think as it develops, it's going to get uglier.
Our third lawyer, Michelle Maple.
Look, as attorneys, we live in fear of a conflict, and we always get the information out. We want everybody to have the facts. If there's a conflict, it needs to get out there, and the people who are paying the bills need to know. This was a sneaky deaky move, and I don't like it.
Okay, investigative reporter.
So I'm a freelance lawyer as well. I've gotten sued more than anyone else on the panel. Look, this whole thing is messed up, and I go back to my Inspector General comment. This city needs some outside Inspector General, because right now, people that do bad things get opinions from other people who do bad things to say it's okay that you did bad things. Yay.
That's crazy. All right, up next, President Trump catching heat for turning his back on Syrian Kurds. We will talk about it after the break. Welcome back. President Donald Trump under heavy fire for a sudden and brutal abandonment of Syria's Kurdish population, whose fighters played a key role in defeating ISIS. The Syrian Kurds are now under attack by Turkey and are in danger of annihilation from Turkish air and artillery assault. Mr. Trump has downplayed the status of the Kurds as American allies, saying, quote, "They didn't help us in the Second World War. They didn't help us at Normandy," end quote. Congressman Dan Crenshaw is leading the House fight against the president's decision, calling the resulting bloodshed intolerable. Tony, what do you think?
I'm not used to being on the same side of an issue as Dan Crenshaw, but he's right. And he's been warning the president and the administration to avoid this blunder, and it's happening already. So even this morning, there's reports from the Associated Press of humanitarian violations, including the execution of bound prisoners. And this morning, they're reporting hundreds of ISIS prisoners escaping. So to me, it's pretty clear that this is a disaster that the administration didn't have to partake of.
Your take, Michelle.
All right, number one, the Kurds are a group with no homeland. After World War I, the Western Allies promised that they would have their own state. That didn't happen. So fast forward 100 years later, they still don't have a homeland. So they carved out this section in northern Syria on the border of Turkey to have their own independent state. Now, I do not agree with the withdrawals of troops out of this area. The Kurds have been our allies. They have fought side by side with our American soldiers against ISIS. Now, both of our goals were aligned there. The Kurds had interest, we have interest, and they aligned beautifully, and the Kurds and the Americans were able to work together well. Now, where was this democratic indignation when Obama abandoned Aleppo? It's the hypocrisy that I don't like.
Last word, Chris.
George Bush created this mess in Iraq, and when the president said we're pulling out, you don't just leave this way. This has to be a strategic withdrawal, and you don't just leave your partners in the battlefield to get slaughtered. And that's the problem Democrats are having. That's the problem Republicans are having. That's why everyone in Congress is opposed to this.
Okay.